get started so that we get through. I'm very prompt in getting meetings going and ending, and so we thank you for your time this evening. So welcome everyone. Mayor Schilke is here, and our speakers in the front, and guests who came to hear about Batavia Counts and the 2020 census. Thank you all for coming out. It seems like the deep freeze has lifted, at least somewhat, so it was tolerable to come out. But before we actually start our program, may I direct your attention to the screen for a brief video.
Beginning in March, the U.S. Census Bureau will invite households across the country to participate in the 2020 census. But what is the census? Simply put, the census is a head count of every person living in the United States. To be sure the government represents the people, the U.S. Constitution requires a population count every 10 years. Ever since 1790, the census has determined the number of seats each state receives in the U.S. House of Representatives. It is, and always has been, a cornerstone of our democracy. We still use it to determine representation, but leaders also use the data to make decisions. Your response helps guide planning for the future of our communities. The 2020 census will help inform decisions on how billions of dollars are allocated annually for critical public services like roads, schools, hospitals and healthcare clinics, fire and emergency response services, and hundreds of other programs. In 2020, for the first time, you'll be able to complete the census online, by phone, or by mail. It asks a few simple questions, like how many people live in your home on April 1st, including their age and sex, and if there are any children living there. You should know that by law, all census responses are completely confidential, and your personal information cannot be shared with any law enforcement agencies. Every person counts, no matter who you are or where you live. So whether your family has participated for decades or the 2020 census will be your first, we all have a role in shaping the future of our country.
Well, that was a quick refresher about the census that's coming up, the 2020 census. Tonight, you're going to hear from a distinguished group of speakers about the 2020 census national level, the local level, and how organizations can help spread the word about the importance of completing the census. I'm Joanne Zillman. I'm Deputy Director and Youth Services Manager here at the Batavia Public Library, and I'm also co-chair of our Batavia Counts Committee.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Anthony Ison Jr. I am with the City of Batavia. My role with the city is to be the assistant to the city administrator as well as serve on the economic development team. I'm very happy that everybody is out here today supporting such a wonderful cause for our community and for the city of Batavia.
So Batavia Counts is not going door to door as a census taker. What it is, though, is a partnership between community agencies, organizations, and individuals with the purpose of promoting and encouraging Batavia residents to participate in the census. Initiated by the Batavia Public Library with the City of Batavia, other partners include the School District, the Park District, BATV, the Chamber of Commerce, the Ministerial Council, the Interfaith Food Pantry, the League of Women Voters, and the list of partners continues to grow.
So official date for Census 2020 is April 1st, 2020. So we gotta keep that date in mind. Between now and Census Day, Batavia Counts partners will disseminate information about the census, as we are doing today and tonight, educate and encourage participation in the census, and lastly, ensure that all Batavia households have the opportunity to complete the census. At this time, I would like to introduce Carol Riley, who is from the U.S. Census Bureau. She will provide a presentation for us today, and she is the partnership specialist with the U.S. Census Bureau. I will let her give a little bit more introduction of herself tonight. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. Thank you again so much for being here. Again, my name is Carol Riley. I've been a resident of Batavia area for 20 years now, so Batavia is very dear to me. For the census, I'm working as a partnership specialist, and what that means is that we are going out to groups, community groups, government, because we know that we need to localize the census. People care about Washington, but they care more about Batavia. They care about redistricting and the congressmen, but they care about Batavia. They care about the schools in Batavia, the libraries in Batavia, the Park District in Batavia, and this is why we need to localize this discussion about the census. The census is a big community of data collection. So I put up a really quick census trivia. This is information that we've collected over different surveys that we do. How many do you think our average people live together in a household? Any answers? Three, correct. What was the median family income in 2016? Any guesses? This is this one here. $72,000. $72,000, yeah. And lastly, how much candy do you think we eat after we just got off the Halloween?
Yeah, 38 pounds.
24.7 pounds. 24.7 pounds. We always like to start our meetings. Mrs. Sanders has been with the Bureau. She's our director for our 8-state region. She's been with the Bureau for 43 years. She is extremely accessible. If anyone ever had a question about the census, well, I heard this or I heard that, and you couldn't get a hold of someone from the committee or you couldn't get a hold of a partnership specialist, she has an open door policy. You were always free to call her or email her and say, what the what? Come on, Marilyn, what the what? So the Census Bureau I mentioned is a research arm of the government. Every year we conduct more than 100 studies, 100 studies. Every 5 years we do big studies for the economics that our planning commissions use and for our agricultural partners. It's called the farm survey. The farmers hate it. We ask them to count how many pigs, how many cows, how many acres, how many, you name it, they give it to us. But it helps them with planning. It helps us to know how to help them. This census, the decennial census, is also called the census of housing and population. We have just finished a complete inventory of every place in the United States where people could live. Every place. We've gone to the planning commissions and we said, where have you guys built? What are new addresses? Where are people hanging out? Help us to know those addresses because we're going to mail to those addresses and then we're going to find out who's living there. That's the purpose of the decennial census. So we just went out, everyone gave us their information, then we went out and verified 50 million addresses in person. 50 million addresses in person over the country. So that we can make certain when we send something to you, you get it. Because if you don't get it, you can't respond. You can't respond. And everything is traced to an address, right? To your address, because we don't know if you still live there. You lived there 10 years ago, now you're new. So this is what's important about this census. Why the decennial census? We saw that video, it did a lot of my work for me. We know that we do our congressional representation, right? In 1950, Illinois had 24 representatives in Congress. This year, we have 18. 18, gone from 24 to 18. What do you think those congressmen and women are thinking about with the census? Count everyone, because it will matter to us. And it matters for our voice and our citizenry, right? It also affects $675 billion of federal monies. This is SNAP, this is WIC, this is public school money, Title IX money, Medicaid money, money for hospitals, money for roads, right? In Illinois, according to George Washington University, we received about $34 billion $34 billion. I just was at a meeting with one of my partners in McLean County, which is Bloomington Normal. They predicted that last census, 2010, we missed 24,000 people out of their area, missed out of the county 24,000 people, which translated to $2.4 million for them. It's big money, it's important, it matters. It also will affect our local boundaries, right? So in Kane County, if our districts for the county, our superintendents are based on population and our population shifts and moves, then we've got to redraw those boundaries, right? And that'll happen in April 2021. And don't ask me how they're going to do it or who's going to do it or when they're going to do it. I know they're going to do it in April, starting in April, but who's going to do it and how it's going to be done, I don't know. We don't have control over that, right? What are challenges? So, you know, we do this every 10 years. This year is particularly challenging. Why? People are way more mobile. 10 years ago, you had an address, you probably had a landline. How many of you have landlines this year? Oh, that's pretty good. Most times we don't have any. But we could locate people much more easily, right? We also know people are a little distrustful. What's happening with data breaches? When something is breached, people are worried. What are they going to do with my information? Is someone going to impersonate me? We want to make certain the data is secure, right? We know that we also have a very much more diverse population, multiple languages. Again, I was down in Bloomington, one of the school districts down there, 52 languages spoken in that school district, 52 languages. So how do we make certain we communicate to those parents and those kids and say, hey, this is important, we need you to do this, right? We need it. We look at something called our hard to count demographics, hard to count. Because everything that we do, we mail to your addresses, we've done this inventory of addresses, we mail to your address, and we want to rely on self-response because when you tell us about yourself, the data is much more reliable. And so in Illinois, in 2010, if we mailed out to an address, 76% of those addresses got the form, filled out the form, sent it back to us. Awesome. 24, we had to go chase. Batavia, 83%. We need to keep that number up, right? We can't just go, oh, everyone. Batavia is so fabulous, everyone will just do it. We need to make certain that they know that they need to do it, that it's important to the community for them to do it, right? We need that information. So hard to count demographics, we look at things like, in 2010, we missed children, 1 million of them, between 0 and 5 years old. People didn't know they needed to count them. Oh, I didn't know they would count. Oh, foster kid, I didn't know that I counted a foster kid. Oh, that roommate, well, he's not here all the time. Was he living here then? April 1st, is he living here? Does he have no place else to live? We need to count him here. Is he using resources here? Yes, we need to count him here. Where are they using monies? So that we can get the monies from the federal programs, from the $34 billion that we said we get. We need to make certain we get those monies, and the only way we can do that is by counting every single person. Every single person. We also know about snowbirds, right? Where do we count snowbirds? We're reaching out to snowbirds now to say, where are they mostly living? If they mostly live here, and they're mostly using our water, our sewer, our roads, our libraries, our park districts, we need to count. And we'll let them know that. There are very simple questions on the census, and we need to combat this idea of, oh, they're going to ask all these questions. They're going to ask for my social security number. We don't. They're going to ask for my income. We don't. We ask at the house, because we've mailed to the house, we want to find out who's in the house. We go to the house, we say, how many people are there? 3. Okay. Do you own or rent this house? Why do you need to know that? Because it helps us to do and plan for affordability. Do we have a housing affordability issue? Maybe. But it helps us to plan for that. Then we say, can we get a phone number in case we need to follow up on something? Okay. And now you've told us 3 people are here and you're answering. May I get your name? Can I get your age? Can I get your birthday? You can lie. We don't do the math. We don't challenge you. You say you're 24 and your birthday shows that you're 56. We're not going to argue with you. We're not going to argue with you. We ask your sex, male or female. Those are our only 2 choices. If you don't like them, you cannot answer. We ask Hispanic origin. We ask race. Then we say, okay, you said there were 2 more people. How are they related to you? That's my son, it's my husband, it's my roommate, it's my grandmother, it's my grandfather. Okay, what is their name? What is their age? What is their birthday? Oh, gee, I don't know. Husbands and wives equally do not know their spouse's birthdays. Equally. And those are the only questions we ask. You know, do you think they're intrusive? I don't know. I don't think they're too intrusive. The personal identifiable information that we gather, names, locked up for 72 years. 72 years. We want statistically significant data. We want to be able to say to the city, hey, you've got 24,000 children. What's that going to do for their planning? What's that going to do for Park District? What's that going to do for school district? Do they need to know that kid's name? No, they don't. In the future, will that kid want to trace his genealogy? Maybe. He's got to wait 72 years. 1950s data is just coming out. I know, Mayor, you're involved in genealogy, I think, right? Yep, so you know 1950s data coming out soon. How will everyone be invited to respond? Our first thing will be online. We're mailing out postcards. We'll start in March. As soon as you get the postcard, you can hop online, fill out the form. Why are we doing it that way? Because when we picked a day to do the Affordable Care Act, and everyone logged in to the Affordable Care Act to register, the system crashed. We do not want to have a crash, right? So we're phasing it in. You'll get one postcard, you'll get another a week later reminding you, you'll get another one a week later reminding you. The 4th time we send you a letter, lovely letter, and the questionnaire in case you just, didn't want to go online, you can do the questionnaire. After all those attempts of saying, please fill out the census, and the city reminding you to do it, and we reminding you to do it, and you still haven't done it, we send people out. Hey, did you forget to do this? Let's get this taken care of right now. We are hiring more than 500,000 people nationwide to do the, hey, let's get this done now, right? And we're hiring locally because what you guys know where streets are, and someone from Chicago might not. So we want to hire local, and we're paying well, and these are temporary jobs, and anything you can do, a lot of people go, oh, my daughter needs to do that job, my son-in-law needs to do this job. We're hiring. We hope that everyone will apply. We're supporting 56 different languages. We support in print Spanish, printed materials in Spanish, so you can fill out the form that way. 13 languages over the phone. Phone us 3 different call centers, so you can call. You can, I guess, drunk dial us at midnight and say, I'm doing my census now, and we'll get those calls. Otherwise, we have language assistance for 56 other languages. So we're trying to cover all of our bases. Our timeline, I said in March, we start the mailing. In April 1st is Census Day. After April, the end of April, we start deploying people to knock on the doors. We have to be done in August. We have to have those counts done in August because we have to deliver to the President December 31st and say, Mr. President, here's our population for the country, right? So we have to be done by August. So we mail, knock, knock, knock. Then we go to the nosy neighbor. And if we still can't get any information, then that person doesn't count and we miss out on that money for 10 years. And that's a problem. That's a problem. Confidentiality. Title 13 is our big go-to. Every single person from the census is sworn in on Title 13 that we must protect your personally identifiable data for life. For life. I can't go to the bar, start talking about, oh, you should have seen this lady, and she told me her age was this, and I know it wasn't that, and blah, blah, blah. We can't. I'll get thrown in jail, I'll get fined $250,000. No gossip is worth that amount of money or that amount of time to me. So we lock it up. We make certain that it's confidential. We lock it up for 72 years. Title 44 says, personally identifiable information locked up for 72 years. It's mandated, it's law. We can't share it with anyone else. We can't share it with any other agency. No one can come to us and go, hey, we want to know about that block on Batavia. We need names and numbers. No, sorry, we can't do it. Can't do it. So that is all I have. I know we have a big group. I think I spent my time, okay. I wasn't getting the hook. We'll take questions afterwards, but we really appreciate you being here. You guys are our trusted voices, and so we are hoping that you will help us get the word out about the census through Facebook, through other means, through participating with us in different activities that we do. And so we really appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you so very much.
Once again, I just want to thank Carol for coming out on tonight for us and sharing such wonderful information and providing that insight that we need as we embark on this journey of importance. As we say, Batavia Counts. So thank you again, Carol, for spending your time and talking to us today. We really appreciate that. Tonight, we have a dynamic panel of members. I am truly excited to have them all here. It's wonderful when you can see faces throughout the community on a day-to-day basis. They're not hard to get to. These people work very hard in our communities. They're the faces of our communities. And tonight they are going to demonstrate to you through a little insight, a little knowledge as to how Census 2020 and being counted actually impacts each and every one of their organizations. So the first person that I would like to introduce is our Batavia Public Library Director, George Sheets. I'm going to go ahead and just say all the names and then we can come up on that order. We have the City of Batavia City Administrator, Laura Newman. We have Batavia Chamber of Commerce, Margaret Perot. We have Batavia Interfaith Food Pantry, Eileen Pacero. Batavia Park District, Allison Niamela, who is our Executive Director. Batavia School District 101, Dr. Lisa Hitchens, Superintendent. Last but not least, we have our League of Women Voters, Patty Lackman, who is a member of the League of Women Voters. So tonight, I would like to introduce to you George Sheets, Library Director, to come on up and provide his presentation.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you to everyone who came out tonight. And thank goodness the weather is like 5 degrees warmer than it was yesterday. My impact statement is short and sweet, really, because the library operates primarily on local property tax. However, we do get money from the state of Illinois. It's the Illinois Public Library per capita grant, and it's worth $1.25 per person to us. So we really like to have a good census count. In any given year, we'll get $33,202.50, which we can do quite a bit with in our organization. And over the course of the decade, that's over $300,000. So we're very excited to use that, and we use that for to enhance our collection, to seed money for new formats for things. That's how we started our video game collection. That's how we started Hoopla, for those of you that are using online resources. We will use that for a variety of electronic databases and all sorts of things. So that really is my report. I didn't use my whole 3 minutes, which my staff would think. I'm ceding it to my final observation about trusting the federal government and privacy. There's a great irony here because so many of us in the world, have started to distrust, governments, local or federal. But the irony to me is that so many of us have a Google Home or a Alexa or something. We're basically, giving away all of our private information to Google and Apple and whoever. And I'm thinking there's a great irony there, but I guess it's part of the 21st century. And with that quasi-humorous note, I'm going to cede it over to Laura. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, George. My name is Laura Newman. I'm the city administrator here at the City of Batavia. And I'd like to speak for a moment about why responding to the census is so important to us as a city. Like the library, we too receive funds on a per capita basis. It's called the Local Government Distributed Fund, and it's a means of sharing the monies that are collected as income tax in the state of Illinois. And so it would be very important to us as residents to be able to maximize our potential to receive these needed funds, which we are able to use in any way. That's part of our general fund revenues. Earlier it was mentioned that the federal government provides $675 billion in federal funds to states and counties and local communities. Monies such as this have been provided in the past to the city of Batavia. It helped us rebuild the bridge that runs through the heart of our downtown. It helped us to put in a light at Deer Path and Main intersection, which was a very dangerous intersection, the site of many serious accidents. Over the course of the next several years, these federal funds will help us completely reconstruct Main Street from Water Street all the way to Van Nortwick, and all of Prairie Street from Pine Street through to Wilson Street, installing a signalized intersection at Wilson Street and rebuilding the railroad crossing to install all the safety equipment necessary so that the train no longer needs to blow its whistle at 3 o'clock in the morning. Let's hear it for that. And so our residents responding to the census helps us to maximize our potential to receive these funds. And guess what? Whether we receive funds or not, we still need to take care of our infrastructure. It's just a means of how we will pay for it. So when we can provide a means to accept federal grants to pay for those things, that means that's money that's not coming from property tax from our residents. I'd also like to talk about the response to the census and the impact on our home rule authority. The city of Batavia received home rule authority by virtue of the last decennial census, where we exceeded a population of 25,000. Recently, our home rule authority was challenged by a citizen referendum that put on the ballot asking the question of our citizens whether we should continue to be home rule or not. Home rule authority has provided the city of Batavia with a sustainability tools that are not available to non-home rule communities. Specifically, having home rule authority allows a municipality the ability to implement alternative revenue streams other than property tax. The result of that referendum, I'm very happy to say, was that the residents of the city of Batavia voted 75% in favor of the city remaining home rule status. However, by virtue of the fact that it is our population size that grants us that authority, it's so critical that we make sure that every resident responds to the decennial census, because if we were to drop below that amount, that's another way that home rule status could end up on the ballot. Another thing that is a benefit for residents responding to the decennial census is emergency preparedness. It allows our public safety organizations and all of those involved in emergency response to understand how many and where people are in our community. And lastly, it allows us to fairly apportion the boundaries of the wards that, the warding districts within the city of Batavia, so that we can make sure that everybody is fairly represented on our city council. So we ask you, don't forget, the census results are for you, the residents of this community. And we encourage you to respond to the census to support community initiatives, legislation, quality of life, and consumer advocacy in the city of Batavia. Thank you. And I would now like to introduce Margaret Perot, who is the President and CEO of our Batavia Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Laura. Good evening, everyone. I am with the Batavia Chamber. The Batavia Chamber supports, is glad to be a partner with the 2020 census. We are big supporters of business growth and prosperity in our area. That's meaning big manufacturers that we can attract to our town to bring money to our tax roll, to bring jobs to our town, or to small businesses that provide services that we need. We would like to make our town as appealing as possible to attract businesses to Batavia. The census information provides that information for businesses to consider to come to our town and provide jobs and economic improvement to our area. The census provides a way for them to make strategic planning and business decisions, where to target advertising, and what to be offered to our community. It can help determine planning and growth opportunities. The census tells us how many people live in our area. It describes our living arrangements, ages, income, educational attainment, etc. Businesses use this information to make very educated decisions. Like, for example, a law firm, noticing that we have an aging population, made them expand their practice to include law specific to the elderly. If someone wants to open a daycare, the first thing to do is to look at various locations in the area and to determine the number of children under age 6 living within 1 to 5 miles. It also tells you how many competitors are in the area, so you can take that information into account when you decide to open a business in Batavia. As our town, we want all businesses to have this information so that they can grow and thrive. We want to support them. A company that provides house cleaning services or lawn care or car detailing will also use the census information to determine if they want to gear their business to middle or high income neighborhoods. Census data will tell businesses how many like businesses are in the area as well, to help them. Sometimes it's beneficial to be by like-minded neighbors, or that'll factor into your decision making on where you want to locate. In terms of employment, the Census Bureau collects data that measures the state of Batavia's workforce, including employment and unemployment levels, and counts how many hours they work a week, and how many weeks they work a year. Data collection also includes occupation and industry and things like that. Businesses need to know how much their competitors are paying their employees, and they could use this information to set competitive wages, which is very appealing to our workforce here in Batavia. Census statistics inform businesses also how far to consider a reasonable commute is for the type of employees they're attracting. So definitely the census really gets critical information for our businesses in Batavia. So for the business and employment needs, we need to have an accurate census, and the chambers have to be a part of that. Thanks. Now I'd like to introduce Eileen Pissarro from the Batavia Interfaith Food Pantry.
Thanks, Margaret. So I am here from the Batavia Interfaith Food Pantry and Clothes Closet, and I just wanted to take a minute to talk about how the census data affects social services and social service agencies in our area. First of all, census data can be used by social service agencies to help them inform them about the populations that they serve, and also can help them determine future scope of programming that they might want to do, or staffing needs that they might have to help serve that population. But probably most importantly, census data is used to determine the allocation of federal funds for a lot of programs that many Batavia families rely on. Some of these programs are the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is what used to be called food stamps, the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, Medicaid, Medicare, and Children's Health Insurance Program. All of these programs, the federal dollars that come to our community are determined based on census data. So it really is important that we make sure that we count everyone. In addition, the Northern Illinois Food Bank, who is sort of our partner in helping us fight hunger in the area, they have a federal program that they receive funds and food commodities based on census data, and that's called the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and that is also determined by the number of people in our area. So ensuring that we have an accurate count of every Batavian is going to mean that we're going to get the proper allocation of funds for all of these really crucial programs that are very important, as you can tell, to a lot of our neighbors in our community. And next, we have Allison Mila. Did I pronounce that right? Sorry.
Hello, and the Batavia Park District is pleased to be a partner in the Batavia 2020 Census. Thank you to Carol Riley for spearheading all the efforts. And thank you, Tony. The Batavia Park District is committed to providing fun and safe open spaces and recreational programming that enriches the quality of life for our residents. What better mission is that? And similar to the library, the Park District is primarily comprised of property taxes and user fees. So when it comes to census data, what helps us the most is when we begin grant writing. And we do our grant writing especially when it comes to neighborhood and community playgrounds and programming. So we have a playground replacement program, and it's on a 15-year cycle. So every 15 years, you can guarantee that every single neighborhood and community park in Batavia will receive a facelift with a playground. And we, the Park District, use that statistical data to identify household sizes and appropriate playground equipment, so it's age appropriate. So obviously we can bump up the scale of the ages year to year to make sure that the playground equipment definitely meets the needs of that area, whether it's a neighborhood park or a community park. So our grant writing efforts really help us communicate the need to the state government based on household sizes and age appropriate people that preside within the distance of that park. When it comes to added amenities throughout the district, 87% of our Batavia residents have said that they use our walking trails and paths. And so with that being said, the census data also helps us figure out where the density in population is so we can add tennis courts, a dog park, baseball and softball fields. You catch my drift. And last but not least, the census data helps us to identify programming trends and issues that are shaping our society. So 3 issues I'd like to talk about briefly are aging populations. So the Park District, we're here to enrich the quality of life for our residents. So we need to adjust to aging populations. The baby boomers is going to be a huge population burst that we're going to see. And so with that being said, it's up to the Park District to adjust our programming and style. We have already offered pickleball classes. We found out that baby boomers love their pickleball, and open gym basketball, and that they're more active than the traditional seniors. Childhood obesity, that's an epidemic that we need to address. And the Center of Disease Control announced that 1 out of 3 children are physically active. It's a sad statistic, but it's one the Park District is willing to address. We're working with hospitals and wellness clinics to do that. So we, the Park District, are offering physical fitness classes such as martial arts and sports camps, football, basketball, you name it, swimming lessons in the quarry to address some of these issues. And last but not least, chronic diseases are on the rise. And so we are doing everything we can to offer self-care classes, mental health care classes, whether it's we're offering massage, yoga, we're even offering life coaching this year. So we're open-minded to anything and everything. So every person counts, and we all have a role in shaping the future of our community. Please be counted. great pleasure to introduce Dr. Lisa Hitchens of the Batavia School District.
Thank you, Allison. My name is Lisa Hitchens. I'm the superintendent of schools in Batavia, and as most of you know, the primary responsibility for funding of schools in Illinois lies with the local residents of that district, and also the state provides us about 10% of our funding. However, the federal government tries to ensure that the highest needs students receive additional financial resources that are necessary to help them succeed. In Batavia, we'll receive somewhere between $3 and $4 million this year. We're not exactly sure how much, but that's about how much we would receive in federal assistance through many different ways. So Carol already talked about the 400, and you've heard this number a few times today, the $675 billion in funds, and there's about 132 different programs that gets funneled through. And so the school district does receive title funds for a variety of these students that need extra assistance. And that might be low income, special education. We receive some funding for career and technical education, National School Lunch Program, the milk program, the breakfast program. So we do receive quite a bit of help from the federal government. And I think it's important to know what happens with those funds. And so I'm going to give you an example. Our Title I funds, that's, if you look at the list of all of the programs, that's one of the most heavily funded programs from the federal government. And in Batavia, we receive about $500,000, about $500,000 in Title I funds. And those are designated to assist our low-income students. And here's what's important. So when you receive these title funds, you have to use them to supplement, not supplant, what we're already offering. So in other words, we have to add something. We're not allowed to take those federal funds just to replace what we're already doing, but we have to prove that we're adding something that these students would not have otherwise received unless we received this grant. So that's an example. So with Title I, we do things like we're required to have parental and family engagement. So we hire a community outreach person, who many of you know, with title funds. And then we also provide materials to targeted programs in classrooms, but we also provide staff to our Title I schools that are additional to our regular staff that go in and provide interventions for students who are in need. And those are some of the things that we are doing that are above and beyond what is provided locally. There's a couple other benefits for people filling out their census data. So the programs that I talked about are in part determined, the funds are in part determined through census data. Obviously, there's other things that are important. Like Carol mentioned, there's about 1 million students or children ages 0 to 5 that were not counted last time, and we would actually like to know if they're coming. So for our planning purposes, that'd be great if we knew that. And like I said, the most important reason for an accurate census count for the school district is because I know that Batavia cares. We know that we always wrap our arms around our families that are most in need, and the federal government is willing to assist us with that if we have the actual accurate counts that would help to target some of those additional funds to our local students. So that, I appreciate your attention, and spread the word that we do need an accurate count to be able to show our students that we care by adding these additional services. Next, I'd like to call up Patty Lackman, our last esteemed speaker. So thank you, Patty, for coming.
Thanks for doing that, because I don't know how to do that on this agenda. My name is Patty Lackman, and I am Voter Service Chair of the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County. And I would have said unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, but as Voter Service Chair, we do a lot of things in the community, one of which is deal with different kinds of community forums and community conversations. One of which happened to be the Home Rule Community Conversation Forum prior to the election in November 2016. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. We work to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influence public policy through education and advocacy. The League will be 100 years old in 2020. And we have always fought to improve our government and engage all Americans in the decisions that impact their lives. Formed from the movement that secured the right to vote for women, the League continues to help to give a voice to all Americans. The League and I believe that we need everyone to participate in order for our community to be safe, strong, and vibrant. As you can see, the League has been a trusted voice in the United States for almost 100 years. With regard to the census, the League is involved on a nationwide basis, and we do this to ensure everyone has a voice, so everyone must be counted. In 2015, Illinois received over $19 billion in federal assistance. That's $1,535 per person. After the census of 2010, Illinois lost 1 congressional seat. That means we have lost electoral influence because we have lost an electoral vote. In 1996, we had 22 electoral votes. In 2000, we had 21. In 2010, we went down to 20. And I just heard today we're at 18. That's pretty scary. As you can see, the census is extremely important. We, as the League, obviously are not like the other presenters tonight. We are a volunteer organization, but we strive to make sure that people are educated about issues. And one of the issues that we want to educate you about is how important it is for you to be counted. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Carol, and our panel. Certainly the information you shared shows and stresses the importance of every person and every resident in Batavia to be counted during this next census. That is why we have Batavia Counts as a partnership to develop these relationships and to help spread the word on why every household in Batavia needs to be counted for the census. Whether you're at an organization with a few hundred members or whether you're an individual resident talking to your neighbor, it's important to know and connect people to the census. And the Batavia Action Plan is very simple. Educate, empower, and engage residents in the census. To be a partner in Batavia Census, we're hoping you educate those that you know around. Tonight has been a fabulous education opportunity and will be taped on BATV and will be coming up on YouTube and on BATV. As a trusted voice in an organization and the community, those of you that are in organizations can educate those that you come in contact with on a weekly or monthly basis. The library is putting together a Batavia Counts census page that will have available downloadable census informations, flyers, posters, and videos like you're seeing here tonight. You can share those with your organization and with anybody that you know. Share census information in newsletters or bulletins or digital displays that you might have available to you. And as I mentioned, the recording from tonight's presentations will be available also on BATV. Promoting the census. As trusted voices in an organization, follow the library on Facebook and share census postings. We'll be doing a lot of that between now and April 1st, and so please keep watching for those. The current BATV is currently producing a public service announcement that you'll be able to share at meetings, on TV, and just any place that you can. Bring it up and show it on YouTube as well. Provide census information at upcoming events, whether you're setting up a census table at a dinner or pancake breakfast, or a concert, or in a church lobby, or even at a Girl Scout meeting, or tonight I know there's several literacy fairs going on around town. Those are great opportunities to share that information. And wear buttons or stickers to support Batavia Counts and Census 2020. Our logo, our Batavia Counts logo and Census 2020 logos will be available on the library website on the Census page for people to either print them yourself or make buttons with them, and they'll be available just to show that you're supporting the Census 2020. And then when it comes to census time, encouraging people to actually complete the census. In March, encourage households that you're associated with to complete the census. Provide access to computers. We at the library here will be setting up some stations for that people to come in and use if they don't have access to online registration for the census. We're hoping to do that and provide that possibly at the food pantry and at other locations around the community. And we'll need volunteers to possibly help do that. Volunteers are not going to be census takers. We don't swear the oath that Carol swore. But we certainly can help people find where they need to go to submit their census. We can also have volunteers of your organization help people who might not be able to complete the census online because of a language or a disability might prevent them from doing so, but we can help them make a phone call or fill out, or make sure to have them watching for that form that they can fill out. So those are ways that you can be a partner in the census, Census 2020. Pat and Michelle are going to hand out a form that's called a partnership questionnaire. And we're hoping that those of you in our audience tonight will consider ways that you and your organization can help promote, educate, and encourage those that you come in contact to participate in the 2020 census. If you know of other organizations, or if you're a member of an organization that you think would be a census partnership, be a part of Batavia Counts, we would encourage you to share that information with us as well, so that we can get the information to them and encourage them to be a census partner. I believe we have enough time. Our panel was very succinct in their talking points, that if there are any questions, we would be happy to let you ask either our panel, any of our panel, or our census, Carol Riley, who's here. Does anybody have any questions about the census? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. I'm Joanne Furness from AID. And I guess my question is actually to Carol. How are the homeless in Batavia going to be counted?
Sure, thank you. That's a great question. So in end of January and in February, we have a homeless outreach program that we do specifically, and we go out and do where we know. So I should step back. We're going to ask people to give us information about where homeless gather and where point of service at food pantries and things. Get that list put together, and then in February we will go out to those locations and count. And that's some of the hiring that we'll be doing. We want to be sensitive to that, but we want to make certain that we're counting everyone so that they get the services and continue to get the services that they need. You're welcome.
Another question? Yes.
What happens if somebody doesn't fill out one or two questions on the form? You still count the ones that are counted? Still done?
Yeah, of course. The most important thing for us is the count, right? And then the other information is kind of what maybe someone would consider gravy information. You know, do we need to know ages? Sure, the school wants to know ages, for sure. Hospitals want to know ages. Our planning commissions want to know ages. But we will take the information that we can get and we'll extrapolate out from there. The most important thing for us is how many, right? Because that affects funding, and then we go from there. But we're not going to send the sheriff or anyone, hey, you didn't answer how old your wife is. We're coming to get you. So yeah, so we will take what we get, and we hope that everyone will complete the form completely, do the form completely.
Any other questions? Yes?
I just want to double check. So I heard you say that, like, the immigration services and other governmental services are not going to get, this is confidential. And so people are concerned about immigration, not having papers and that kind of thing. We'll not have to worry about that. We have to reassure those people about that.
Right. We are absolutely not allowed to give out data to any other governmental agency, not to sheriffs, not to police, not to ICE, not to any of these groups. This is our data that we hold secure for 72 years. So, and we're particularly concerned with from the immigrant population. We're concerned about mixed status households so that we don't get a short count. We don't want to be undercounted. So this is really important, working with immigrant groups to ensure that they know, count everyone in the household, count everyone, regardless of status, because we really need to know that we can provide those services for the schools and things for Park District, because they're using resources. They're using resources, and we want to get reimbursed for those resources.
I know this is Batavia Counts, but our organization is Geneva and St. Charles also. And how does that, is there cooperation between the communities, or how is that going to work?
Yeah, so the county has a complete count committee. Kane County has a complete count committee. And then we work with individual cities within the county if they feel they want to do a complete count committee on their own. Because there are some local issues that are specific to a city that they want to get involved in. But again, we want to get the word out, count everyone. We want to count everyone once, only once, but in the right exact place. So we are working with Geneva, we are working with St. Charles Library, has been very involved with us as well. So
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Any other questions? Oh, yes, sir.
You mentioned various promotional collateral like buttons and brochures and whatnot. Is there going to be a centralized place where we might want to find some of those things?
Right now, we don't have any buttons printed, labels we can certainly do very easily. Yes, we'll have all that information on the library website.
Oh.
And if you signed in today, we'll be following up with anybody who was at today's meeting and giving them more information.
Okay.
Anything else? We do have some handouts in the back. You also have a free census water bottle to remind you about the census, so we would be happy to have you take that. But before I let you run out the door, we have one more thing that I would draw your attention to the screen for.
What is the 2020 census? Every 10 years, the census records everyone living in this country. It's written in the Constitution and comes in a questionnaire that counts everyone who lives at your address on April 1st. The data can be used to inform funding for services like fire stations, schools, clinics, and representation that affect your community.
How will 2020 census data be used? Where there are more people, there are more needs for public services. That's why the census is used by the government to inform funding decisions each year. But that's not all. It's also used by nonprofits to inform services, by businesses to create jobs, and even by students for school projects. Understanding how the population changes helps us shape communities across the country for the better.
How does the 2020 census affect representation? There are 435 seats in the House of Representatives. These get distributed to the 50 states by population, and an accurate census response helps your state get the right amount of seats. States with smaller populations get at least one, while states with larger populations might get more.
How do I take the 2020 census? In March 2020, every address in the country will receive an invitation to complete a simple questionnaire, and there are 3 ways to respond. Number 1, do it online. Number 2, call by phone. Number 3, send it by mail. For those who don't respond, a census taker from your community will follow up and assist you.
Is my 2020 census data safe? After sending your census response, your personal information is kept safe. By law, it can't be shared with any other government agency, law enforcement, or landlord. No one. So take your 2020 census with peace of mind. Shape your future. Start here. Visit 2020census.gov.
Well, I count, you count, Batavia counts. We hope everyone is counted in our Census 2020 this year, and thank you all for coming along.